Hello, my name's Amanda Brown and I'm the sewing tutor at Ardington School of Crafts. In this short video, I'm just going to talk about zips. We sometimes hate them and we sometimes love them, but it's making sure that you're using the right zip with the right foot for your project. So I'm just going to run through some different zips and different feet to help you on your way. Firstly, we're going to talk about zip feet. Now, most people, when you buy a sewing machine, you probably will have a foot that looks like this. Now, this zip foot enables you to move on the left and the right, and it enables your needle to move accordingly because you're putting it on the different bars. That one you would have standard with your sewing machine. This second foot is called an adjustable zip foot. You would have to buy this separately. This foot here is a Janome foot, and what happens, you have to take your shank of your sewing machine off, and then you have to clamp this here. It clamps and you have to use the little screw at the side to clamp on, and then the little green button or little at the back, you have to move this accordingly, and your foot moves from side to side, and you can have your needle in the middle, to the right or to the left. Now this foot is really good for zips and it's good for piping. I would suggest that you buy the right foot for your sewing machine. So this one is called an adjustable zip foot. If you have a Bernina sewing machine like I have, this is what that foot looks like. So I don't need to buy one of these because my zip foot is very slim to begin with. And so I can move my needle to the right and to the left, and I can do piping or a zip with this foot. Here are the basic zips that you would use. This is a dress zip because it has a stopper at the end there. And this zip here, if you wanted to make cushions, you can buy the same style zip on a reel. So it's by the meter. So if you went into your dress shop, you would find something like this, and you would have 8, 9 inches, 10 inches, and then it goes up in twos, 12 inches, 14 inches, depending what you were making. You would buy the correct zip. If you were making cushions, you could, a more economical way of doing it is actually buy it on a reel. So you can buy, this is white, you can buy it in a beige colour, which is really good colour for zips. You can buy it in black, navy or cream. So maybe the basic colours would be a good colour to get if you're making lots of cushions. Now what you have to do is you buy the sliders separately, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unzip, I'm going to turn this around so you can see a bit better, and then slide this zip off here. Now this is the top of my zip because I have the plastic on the top like this zip. Okay, now for me to be able to slide this slider onto this zip, a little tip is to cut this on the end into a V. Okay, so cut that like this there, so it looks like that. All right, the rounded edge, I have the lever on the top, and the rounded edge is the side that's going to go onto the zip. Now I'm going to take one side and I'm just going to slot that on like so. Okay, then you get the other side and you're going to slot that in there. Now what happens, because you've actually cut that into a point, it's easier to hold on to that end and then to zip the zip onto the slider like so. Okay, Now you're going to obviously, that's all a bit higgledy-piggledy there. So we're going to cut that off and make it nice and straight. Now your instinct with zips is obviously to zip that zipper up. But with the zips on a roll, you haven't got any stoppers like this zip. You haven't got a stopper at the end and you haven't got a stopper there. So I suggest to get a needle and thread and do a little tacking motion. You could just do it on one side because then you know that the zip is not going to slide up. On the other end, to do the little, to have the same effect of the little metal, you need to put your sewing machine on a wide zigzag, your length of stitch 0, and then do what you call a bar tack at the bottom of the zip, and that will stop the zip going off that way, and the little tacks here will stop it running off the end. A dress zip, you would use this in a cushion, and this is what you call a lap zip, and you'd also use it in a makeup bag here. So there's different ways of putting zips in, unfortunately. It's not easy. And with this zip here, this is called a lap zip. So you have a very close top stitching on the side of one area of the zip, and then this second side overhangs and you have a top stitch here. Now this zip here, we're not trying to cover this up. This is a makeup bag, so I'm calling this a decorative zip because we're not trying to cover it up. And so it's looking pretty because you can see there in the makeup bag, and there's a top stitching around this area here. I'll just bring that forward, there we go. And we have a top stitching around here. Okay, now if I just bring over the zip foot again here, when I turn this zip foot over, you can see on the bottom it has two little, on each side it has an area that's cut out there. Now that enables you to place your zip alongside, if I move this out the way and move this zip here, it enables that when I pop this on top of there like that, it's like a ski. It runs alongside, so the main part of the foot runs alongside here, but the left hand side is actually raised on top of this plastic, and it allows it to slide down. Okay, now what you don't want to be doing is you do not want to be sitting on top of that plastic. Not at any time are you sitting on top of the plastic, because that's when it falls off, it's all slidey. You are running down like a ski, and you'll feel that you cannot be stitching on this plastic here. And depending if you're left or right-handed or which way you have pinned your zip in place, you move your foot accordingly to the left and right bar. The next zip and zip foot I'm going to introduce you to is a concealed zip foot. Now, a concealed zip is when you can't see it. It's in the name, really, I suppose. And this is where it's a lovely zip to use in dresses. You can use it in cushions, but it's a beautiful zip to have in clothes. This is a skirt that I made, and I had to line up the lines there, the stripes. But with a concealed zip, now if I lift this up to the camera here, you have a flat, it's flat on the top, but when I turn that over, you can see it looks like a dress zip, an ordinary dress zip on the back. You can see the plastic on the back, but this is classed as the front. Now with this style zip, you need to have the correct foot, which is called a concealed zip foot. They might call it an invisible zip foot. And this is what it looks like if I bring this up to the camera here. Now, if I turn that on its side, you can see there's little channels, the left and the right hand side. Okay, now you need to make sure that you are buying the right foot for your sewing machine. There can be a difference. This is a Benina foot. Sorry, this is a Janome foot. But there can be a difference with a brother foot concealed zip foot because the alignment of the needle may not sit in the center. Okay, now I know we're all that we want to buy cheap, but cheap's not always the greatest option. So make sure that you're buying the correct foot for your sewing machine, because you don't want to damage the mechanism of how the needle is going into your machine. Okay, so this here, this is a tricky bit. I teach this in my zip classes, where at the top here, it's a lovely kind of technique of how this all gets folded in the top. Okay, there. Now, if you're going to use a concealed zip in your pattern of your dresses, if you're changing the pattern and the pattern said use a 12-inch zip, you need to buy a 14-inch concealed zip, because when it comes to the bottom of the zip here, there is an area you have to have it slightly longer, okay? And there is a reason for it, okay? So if you are changing from a dress pattern that has a 10-inch zip, you would have to buy a 12-inch concealed zip. These two zips here are anorak zips. Now, anorak zips are open-ended, so you're able to open your jacket. This one's a chunky zip, and this one's an ordinary anorak zip. Now, you can get them in metal, you can get them in different varieties, but I also use these in my bag classes because they're really sturdy zips. I wouldn't use it in a basic cushion, but I would use it in a bag because I think they look really effective. And I'm going to show you in the next part my bags that I'm making. Hello, these are some bags that I've made. I'm going to be teaching how to make the basic style of this bag. They won't be the same, but it's the same technique of how to make this particular bag at Ardington. Now, here's showing you that I've used an anorak zip. I've actually used a chunky zip, I don't know if you can see in there. So it's kind of how I insert zips into makeup bags, and it's a really nice, thick, chunky zip. It's really durable for these types of bags there. And this one here is just to show you is exactly the same. But what I did here is I actually re-upcycled an anorak zip. I took this out of an anorak, which wasn't good anymore, and this is a metal one here. Now it actually has a slider on that end, and it actually has a slider on that end, so I can zip it like this. And so it's really good to upcycle things. We're obviously in a world of upcycling now. And on this particular bag here, I cut up an old tablecloth and I popped it on the front. So if you would like to join me at Ardington making a bag, I would love to see you. Thanks, bye.